The War of the Roses was a civil conflict in England during the 15th century. It was fought between two rival noble families, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The goal was to secure the succession to the English throne. The name, War of the Roses, is due to the fact that the House of Lancaster used a red rose as its symbol, while the House of York used a white rose. The origins of the War of the Roses date back to the reign of Edward III, who ruled England between 1327 and 1377. During this period, England faced a political and economic crisis that worsened after the monarch's death. His grandson, Richard II, took the throne in 1377, but faced numerous difficulties in governing the country. In 1399, he was deposed by his cousin, Henry Bolingbroke, who became Henry IV, ruling England until 1413. Henry IV faced many obstacles to occupying the throne because he was not the natural successor to Richard II. Upon his death, the crown should have passed to Edmund Mortimer, great-grandson of Lionel of Antwerp. But Henry IV managed to keep the throne, and, when he died in 1413, the country was at peace. His son, Henry V, succeeded him without any hitches. Henry V was one of the great warrior kings of the Middle Ages, considered by many scholars as the best warrior in English history. Henry V was a strong leader, and, after ordering the execution of Richard, Earl of Cambridge, for plotting to put the Yorkists on the throne, he invaded France. He won many battles, including the famous Battle of Agincourt in 1415, annexing Normandy and Rhone to England. In 1420, Henry V married the daughter of the King of France, and it was agreed that their children would be heirs of England and France. But Henry V died unexpectedly in 1422, a victim of dysentery. His son, Henry VI, who was only 9 months old, became the only monarch ever to be crowned King of England and France. Henry VI's reign was politically and economically unstable. During his childhood, the country was ruled by regents who fought each other for power. When Henry VI came of age, in 1442, he proved to be a weak king who was unable to rule. This led to the rise of powerful noble families, who began to contend for control of the court and kingdom. Henry VI was a weak and sickly king, with periods of insanity. During one of these bouts in 1454, Richard of York was appointed protector of the realm. His first act was to dismiss some of the Queen's Lancastrian advisors, causing enormous resentment in the kingdom. Henry VI recovered a few months later, and Richard of York was summarily dismissed for his decisions. The two most prominent families in England at the time were the House of Lancaster, led by Henry VI and his mother, Margaret of Anjou, and the House of York, led by Richard, Duke of York. Both began recruiting soldiers and preparing for war. Many soldiers had just returned from the 100 Years' War in France, so there was no problem recruiting men trained for combat. Each side had to choose a badge, the red rose for Lancaster and the white rose for York. Richard of York set out with his men to defeat Margaret of Anjou's army and settle the throne succession issue. The armies faced each other at the Battle of Wakefield on December 30th, 1460, near Sandal Castle. But things did not work out as Richard had planned. He was killed in the battle, and his severed head was displayed with a paper crown on top. Richard's son, Edward, took his father's place in the fight against the House of Lancaster and defeated King Henry VI's army. The monarch was imprisoned in the Tower of London and was succeeded by Edward IV. Queen Margaret of Anjou fled with her son to Wales, where they were received by Jasper Tudor, Henry VI's half-brother. During the winter of 1461, York forces defeated the Lancaster at the Battle of Mortimer's Cross. Weeks later, the York were crushed by the Lancaster at the Second Battle of St. Albans. With victory in that battle, Henry VI was rescued and reunited with his wife. But Edward VI did not give up. In March of that year, Edward faced the Lancaster army in a snowstorm in a field near Towton, in the county of North Yorkshire. It is believed that over 50,000 men fought brutally, and about 28,000 died. In 1470, Henry VI regained the throne. However, in 1471, he was defeated by Edward IV's army at the Battle of Tewkesbury and was imprisoned again, being executed shortly afterwards. Henry VI's son had died during the battle, leaving the way clear for the throne of England. With no other Lancaster heir to challenge him, Edward IV continued as king until his sudden death in 1483. Edward IV's son, named Edward V, assumed the throne, but was deposed by his uncle, Richard III, who proclaimed himself king. Richard III ruled England for 2 years until he was killed at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. His successor was Henry VII of the House of Tudor. To avoid another clash between Lancaster's Red Rose and York's White Rose, Henry VII married Elizabeth of York, finally uniting the two houses. The Tudor dynasty came to be represented by the overlapping of both roses, symbolizing the end of the feud. The War of the Roses had a significant impact on the history of England. It caused thousands of deaths and destroyed many estates. The war weakened the English nobility and strengthened the monarch's power. The quarrels between the houses of Lancaster and York, which lasted more than 30 years, were also an important factor in the process that led to the creation of the absolute monarchy in England. The War of the Roses also inspired many literary works, such as William Shakespeare's plays, depicting conflicts between the two houses. In addition, the red rose and white rose have become important symbols in English culture. Today, they are used on flags, coat of arms, and other insignia. The War of the Roses is currently remembered as one of the bloodiest and long-lasting conflicts in English history. Although it ended more than 500 years ago, the consequences are still visible in the country's political and social structure.